people are starting to roll in here. Thanks so much, guys, for joining. How you doing?
We're doing great.
Yeah, we were just catching up before this started, so I'm just pretending that we're doing that for the first time.
Yeah, life is good. Life is good.
So I think the first thing we want to do is just caveat that Jacob, we met about how many years ago? 12 years ago now?
I guess more than 13 because we met the summer of 2010.
Yeah, I'll never forget that one of the first pieces of PR I ever did was join a podcast that you were also on. And as a result, we got to meet, we got to collaborate, we got to start working together, and that was just an incredible time. It was very fortuitous because it was right when I was starting Score, and it was right when you were beginning to sort of do your career as a composer. So I just wanted to start high level. Tell us about you guys as individuals, and then we'll get into sort of third stream in your collaboration. So Jacob, you want to start?
Yeah. Sure. I wanted to be a composer ever since I was 8 years old. I heard Michael Jackson and I got hooked on music. And then I saw Gremlins, and for whatever reason, that movie made me want to be a composer. Then I went to a music conservatory with the idea to study the orchestra. I wanted to learn how to write properly for the orchestra. And then while I was there, I met Gary Thomas, who's an amazing saxophone player. He's in all the jazz history books. And I went down a rabbit hole of sort of studying like modern concert classical music and really modern jazz with all the crazy theory. And then I moved to New York, I was on a jazz record label, and I was crashing with a buddy of mine, fellow jazz musician, and he was studying at NYU, and he just mentioned that there was a woman who taught there who orchestrated the film Interview with the Vampire, which this movie, the score for that movie is just astounding. I had it on cassette first and I wore it out, and then I bought it on CD twice because I broke the CD. I love that score so much, and so I applied. I think the last night you could apply for the film scoring department at NYU. Got a master's, and then the summer of 2010, I had just graduated. That's when we met, Jordan, and I was literally just hitting up Craigslist ads to try to score anything I could. Started literally rock bottom, and randomly, I think the president of the jazz label I was on, his wife was an accountant for a Weinstein Company film, and they said, we want to get a jazz composer for this film, which I found out was like code for we don't have any money and we want to get someone who doesn't know any better to score this Children of the Corn sequel. But I was happy as hell, so I took the leap of faith, moved out to LA with my wife, and have been basically working with you, Jordan, ever since. Still grabbing Craigslist there at the beginning, but quickly turned over to some substantial work, which I'm.
No, I remember when we went and hit Children of the Corn in theaters. It was epic.
Yeah, that premiere, right? There was like at least 8 people there. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was so incredible.
Yeah.
Rohan, tell us about you.
Well, I was a Christian rapper at the age of 15. That's how it all started. And I went to college learning to make beats and trying to be a cool kid as a freshman. And I quickly realized people like my music more than they like my rapping skills. So then I, joined the music department there over the years, just trying to learn how to do that world of music better, learning instruments, learning how to use different DAWs. Eventually, by my senior year, I was like the grad assistant And then I ended up running the conservatory there for a while, under the music tech department. And then from there, I went to Atlanta, and started becoming a full-time audio engineer, because I realized, like, if I really wanted to be a musician, or if I wanted to be a producer, whatever I wanted to do, I was gonna have to work and make money in the business. So I was like, let me make sure I can work in the business, have just a normal job at least while I was trying to be creative. And that led me. I was a full-time engineer on the staff of Universal for a while, and I'll just play my music in all the sessions. And I'll never forget an A&R just, excuse me, sorry, if a few producers heard my music, they'd work with Jay-Z and all these people. I really looked up to them. They're like, you should not be an engineer. And so they passed my music to the A&R. And then I think I got my first placement in 2017 or excuse me, 2007 on Flowrider. And then a couple of A&Rs from Atlantic heard my stuff. One of them, Aaron Bashuk, actually started managing me briefly. And then from there, I just kept on getting placements after placements. Worked on Ariana, took some Chris Brown work. And then I had a big record in 2010, Super Bass. And after 2010, I moved from Atlanta to LA. And then from there, just producing, working. And then eventually was like, you know what, I want to do something new. And I actually went on this trip to Israel, which we all went. I'm definitely praying for Israel right now. And that's kind of how all of our paths crossed, through reality music. And it's been a whirlwind ever since.
So this program you guys met, it was actually like a pretty music driven program, probably with the part of the goal was just to have people in a melting pot of creativity and music to meet and potentially collaborate. And we were lucky enough to be able to put you guys together for a project with our other friend, Andrew Kahn, when they were doing this incredible Gap campaign. You guys want to talk about that first time working together?
Yeah, I think the cool segue from my story into our story is that Israel trip. Being I started working on the Kendrick Lamar Damn project, I think it was, and just with Jacob's history and just musical genius, I was like, hey, it would be amazing if we could collaborate on this project. And nothing happened there, but our mutual friend Andrew Kahn was like, hey, got this commercial, and Jacob thought of me and brought me in on that, and I'll tag you in, Jacob, to tell the rest of the beautiful story.
Yeah, Rowan and I had a couple projects that he had cooking that we were trying to find something to work on, because we became fast friends when we were in Israel, and he would come to the studio that I had at the time in Burbank, just to talk about music, and we were just looking for something to do together. So then Andrew called Score for this Gap campaign, where we had to track like a 50-piece choir at Capitol Records and work with Janelle Monáe to kind of reimagine this old Motown classic song, as well as score, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 like smaller commercials with sort of original ideas. So it ended up being like the perfect like fusion of our skill set. So Rowan, we actually, for the demo work, we called in KJ. She was in Israel with us. She sang on a lot of the original demo work for that, and a bunch of other vocalists that you knew, Rowan. So it just was like our first kickoff project, and I thought it went remarkably well. I mean, it was just like the most amazing day at Capitol, working together. Rowan was upstairs conducting the choir, getting them ready, because I think we had a bunch of kids and adults. We were tracking them separately, and it was just like this great assembly line that we had going. And of course, when it's done, we're like, oh man, we got to find something else. And then that's, Jordan, when you connected us with Michael John Warren, which was the first official series, Best Shot, which I think Rowan's got the poster that way on your screen. This LeBron James produced series for YouTube Originals. And we just, man, that was such an amazing project. And Rowan came in swinging, called in all these friends to come and help sing and rap. And I mean, that just was like such an explosive project of creativity. And Michael John Warren's one of those directors where he takes everything that his team is throwing at him and makes it work for the project, to the point where they re-edited an episode and titled it after one of our songs and built the whole episode based on the song's pacing, which was just incredible. And I kept telling Roahn, we're never going to have this again.
To highlight one of those things that I think is really unique with you guys is how you're blending not just like musical genres and styles, but the approach to the creative sort of like outlet. And so can you highlight a little bit more about how you're utilizing friends and your network of musicians to almost take Rohan's background with like producing and songwriting in the pop world? Because Jacob, like you would just spend hours and hours by yourself as a composer, as many do in your own studio. Maybe you'd be able to hire like a friend to play a part or something, but I feel like this whole new process is part of the secret sauce with you guys, and maybe you can talk about it.
Yeah, I think specifically on Best Shot, it's funny because just in the pop and rap R&B world, there's this things called song camps, which pretty much everybody knows about now. For a while, it was a thing that was just localized to a certain group of labels and publishers, but it's a common practice now. And we brought that kind of concept thinking, okay, how can we do that and approach a television series as if it was an artist? And that allowed us to get some amazing theme ideas, to work with those themes, to picture, to bring in artists and songwriters to those pieces and to those themes, and just build a unique project on Best Shot. And I think that energy kind of translated not just from what we were creating musically, but to the energy of the show itself. And I definitely know the network and the showrunners, they noticed and they called us a few times for a few other projects. I think most recently, the project that we were able to do that very well on also was Vampire Academy. And I know I'm skipping about 7 years of work, but we were able to do that most recently in Vampire Academy, where we were responsible for the whole score, and responsible for about 30 songs. And we were able to interweave our processes in a very fun way, that allowed us to, both actually score and write lyrics to some of those pieces that ended up being in the project, not as sync, but as pieces of the score. And it was really fun to do that process. So that's kind of how we've been able to hybridize both of our skill sets. But also, I think it takes a unique show for us to be able to really do that. And we have an ongoing joke, that every project is its own universe, literally, because every time we sit down to write, it's slaying the dragon again, if you will. And sometimes we can use different pieces, and sometimes we can't. But then there's always that one project where we get to flex and do what we both love to do.
Yeah, Jordan, I think the biggest difference is, when you consider someone like John Williams, it's an incredibly efficient process. The movie's done, they hand it over to him, and then he custom creates each second of music to picture. There's no throwaway pieces unless, a director says, hey, that's just not going to work, come up with something else. And when I was studying with composers and orchestrators, the idea was like, hey, work on your efficiency, be able to produce, at a high speed, yes, but also, you don't want to create anything unnecessarily. So you want to really focus and be like, hey, okay, I'm going to wait till the film's done, score to picture. And this approach is, I know, at least from what I understand, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross do this quite a bit, where they're writing away from picture a lot of material, and then they kind of like customize it to work for various projects. And that's really what seems to be filmmakers' favorite approach, at least in our experience. They would rather have this feeling that we're just supplying lots of music ideas and content, and then we will write to picture, but we will take the stuff we've created, maybe a stem or a layer or something, and that becomes a building block. And then they feel like, okay, it's like almost like we're creating a custom library that's living and breathing and can be adapted or even thrown out and re-recorded to picture, but they're involved in the process. And it especially works because the editors lately, or yeah, at least the last 6 years or so, their process is, it's so fast. They just need the music like at light speed. And so if you're waiting for them to send you a cut and then you start, you're already behind.
And how does co-composing balance? Like, I mean, there's times where I'm sure there's a lot of pros to it, and then there's times where there might be challenges to it. Is there anything to speak of on that?
Yeah, I think for both of us, when I first started early on as well, I was in a room by myself doing everything that I could by myself, and I hated collaboration because it was hard to get my ideas out. And I think there was a little bit of immaturity. And the more success I got, the more I realized collaboration was actually the secret sauce. And I think that is mostly embodied in how Jacob and I work, is because I have an idea, I'm playing something, and I hate it and I'm about to delete it. He's like, no, that was amazing. Try this. And then the same thing, like he'll have 50 ideas on the piano and just keep recycling, thinking it's not perfect yet. And I was like, no, the seventh idea of 150 was amazing. Mm-hmm. Let's focus on that one. And I think it really allows us to be able to synthesize ideas in a way that might not happen individually. And I think specifically that's why we've named our company Third Stream. I'll let Jacob give a little bit more details on that. But what it allows us to do is create a new process or a new set of ideas that would not have necessarily occurred had we not collaborated and conceptualized those ideas together. So I think obviously there's challenges with our different backgrounds and how we think about music. And it's interesting because I think in those challenges is also our advantage. And we've learned how to use those differences and leverage our different view of the world and music to our advantage in a way that allows us to make something cool in every different project that we get to work on.
There's also, I mean, it's no secret, but growth is painful, and your ego is going to take a hit. So working together, there are times I know I've created something and I'm like, oh man, I put so much craft and effort into this piece, and I think it's great because I used, something that my old composition professor would like pat me on the back and be like, way to go, Jacob. And then Rowan would be like, this sucks, man. Like that's just boring. It sounds old and traditional. And then I was just like, then I listened again. I'm like, damn, he's right. And I've done the same to you, Rowan. Like he makes the joke sometimes if I play something for him and it's not good. He's like, were you tired, Jacob? Were you tired? And so having that first listener, I mean, Stephen King writes about that in his book on writing. He had his wife as his first reader, and having that person, and so when we co-compose, we're next to each other, or like we're, just an email or a Zoom or a phone call away. We throw ideas at each other all the time. Like we send it like, isn't this amazing? And then if he's excited by the idea I started or vice versa, then we know we have something really good. And then it only gets better when we start throwing our weight behind it. So I will say, for anyone who's trying to build a sort of a composing collaborator, just know that it's not like it's all going to just be easy. It's going to be painful and your ego is going to take a hit, but it's important.
But it seems like consistent that the differences you have are what make you successful. Like, I mean, it's really about filling in the weaknesses of each other and leaning into your own individual strengths to find the best product.
100%.
Yeah, I would say we're also benefiting from a very unique time and content. I think the merging of our worlds speaks to what filmmakers want to make and what people want to see. I think traditional composition and orchestral themes work very well in large format storytelling, but now we're in an explosion of television shows, right? So you got to shrink that large format storytelling into episodic TV that a modern listener wants to listen to with all the distractions that we have. And I think that our unique differences and our combination of applying our differences in different process really serves in modern storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I think is so incredible about composers today, and I think most people outside of this niche industry don't fully understand, is how entrepreneurial it you have to be. I mean, you guys in a given day are writing music, taking meetings, making marketing material, hiring musicians, coaching assistants. Like, walk us through sort of the different things that you do to go into this one part of the job, which is ultimately to like make the director or producers happy, with what you're doing. But it takes so much. Like, how do you know where to put your attention and when?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that this industry wants to hire an artist, but you have to behave as a business. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn, because I thought, no, I just have to prove with my portfolio that I'm capable. I'm good at what I do, and then I'll get hired. And like, no. They have to be excited about you. And that was something I learned from Rowan in a huge way. And that it's hard, because then you have to like really do almost double the work, because you have to figure out how to, advertise and sell, like the Arnold Schwarzenegger, sell, and let people know what you're doing, let them peek behind the curtain. So, I mean, Rowan and I talk, round the clock. We're always texting, and we read a lot of business content, whether it's like blogs or articles or books, watching videos on small businesses, because there is a lot to consider. And just, we've tried different things. Some of them don't really work for us. And someone wrote, the music is the easier part. Cool Futures. Yeah, that's right. You have to, there's no great template for it, because if you read business books or listen to the gurus on YouTube or whatever, it doesn't apply, because we are artists behaving as a business, and that's a very different thing. So we've tried to have weekly meetings. We've tried everything you can name. We've tried it. And so, I think at least I've come to accept, it's just going to be insanity. It's just, if it matters to us, we make the time for it and we make it work. We try to put our own projects, we fit it in between the deadlines that we already have. And it's starting, we're getting better at it just because of practice. But yeah, dude, there's been 100-hour work weeks for much of the last decade, maybe some of them 120-hour work weeks. It's really been crazy, but the passion is there, which drives us. I don't think I gave you a good answer, Jordan. I don't know if there is it's just crazy.
Well, there's some good nuggets in there, but
let me jump in on this too, because I think part of this kind of speaks to what I just said. I think we're in a content era, you know what I'm saying? We're in the content age. And so if you're a creator, you have to be as visible as your content almost now. And so that comes with an air of entrepreneurship. If you can stand out in an attention economy, then you're able to expand your business and your portfolio. And so I think there's always that balance between making yourself seen and making great work. And it is work to make yourself seen. So I think that's one thing that we're always trying to balance, and making sure we're at the cutting edge of whatever that means for us, while also being authentic. But I'm hopeful for the future. I think, we're coming off of one half of the strike. I think the second half of the strike, hopefully that ends soon. But I think it's going to alter the way that we consume content again, and so will technology. And I think we're in a unique position to have to be at the forefront of both making that content and being entrepreneurs, as you said, Jordan. And I think that's only going to keep on being important. So, we'll keep on experimenting, and we're excited for the future.
I want to highlight like one particular moment with you guys that I felt super proud and just in awe of kind of how you approached it. So we had a meeting with the Fox Music guys. They talked about Wonder Years coming up, and talk about passion. Like, you just went for it to go create unbelievable music to pitch. Essentially, you created original music from scratch, inspired by the show. And when I say inspired by the show, I mean there's one Deadline article. Like, this wasn't like you got like video footage and all, it's like, this wasn't like, there's no brief. It was just like, here's all we know about the show. And I think taking those leaps at times, at the right times, pays off. And I think a lot of composers are down to do that, but it's scary. I mean, you probably invested in hiring your friends for that. I mean, you were like out of pocket, right? Like, talk about that process and what made it worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's 100% what we did. And it's worked out for us that every time we've taken our own money and gone and just recorded some music that we're excited about for a demo or just literally for the love of music, it has always benefited us in ways that it's hard to fathom. So that Wonder Years album, we at during that was 2020, and we were already kind of excited. We had done that Kevin Hart series where we recorded a lot of my old jazz musician buddies in New York, and we were like, man, we really liked working with live rhythm section and horn players. Like, let's do something. And then we had that meeting with Fox, and it gave us the reason. Hey, we were already planning to do something with that group of musicians, so we just went to town, pulled out all the stuff. I think we wrote like 15 or 16 tracks of various styles, all with the idea to do it the old way, like analog tape, just really inspired by that era and how they did things. And then I think we sent it and didn't hear anything for like 4 months. It was like, all right, well, I guess that didn't happen. And then we out of the blue, we got the call and they were like, when can you start? And then we also, during that time, we recorded, I was interested in writing stuff for string quartet. And I just, I've been like studying the Bartok quartets and a couple other pieces that I really like. So I paid out of the pocket of my pocket to record some string players in the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. And then Rowan heard it and he was like, hey, give me that. And he started playing with it and like sampling pieces of it and added like, bass and drums and other elements and kind of just created this new sound that got us both excited. Well, those became these little demo tracks that landed us Vampire Academy and the pilot that we just finished for Fox. And so both projects that we invested our own money in led to actual big jobs, paying jobs. So now we've just taken it that as soon as we're excited about an idea, just go ahead and pay the money, make it to the best of your ability, because at the end of the day, we're music makers. So like whether you hire us or not, we want to make music.
Always bet on yourself like that. Yeah. And like always, if you believe, other people will believe, and eventually it'll stack up. I know that's, the most cliche thing to say, but I think what Jacob, what you forgot to say is that was during the pandemic. And we didn't know what we were going to do. We've said this often. Like, we were like, what are we going to do? There's no work coming in. And we're like, well, we want to make some music anyway to stay fresh and to stay inspired. And as Jordan and Jacob both said, that turned into at the time the biggest project that we had ever worked on. So yeah, I would say it's about staying inspired, and it's about trusting the people you work with to enhance that inspiration through collaboration.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. I mean, I think once you have that success, it's so easy to build off of success. And then came Bel Air, and then there's all these other projects that come as a result of doing great work. We were just about out of time, but I want to leave with one last thing, which is, tell us, when you're just completely burnt out, but you still have to find inspiration, where do you go? How do you get it?
Listening to music. Yeah, just finding new stuff. And I always say, if you need to write music here, you need to be listening to music here. If that makes sense. You want to be like pushing your brain and your soul and your heart to new heights. So when I hear music that's really like, oh my God, that's on a level that I haven't heard before, or something new, it gives you energy. Like, you literally are like, it's not just being inspired, like you have like, it's like a jolt of adrenaline from it. And that feeling, I don't know any other way to get it other than listening to music. That's me. I don't know, Rowan.
I would add to that, definitely listening to music, but also just going outside. Like, I'm putting my foot on some grass, going to the beach, like that does it for me. But also while listening to music, like also while listening to music.
Well, guys, thank you so much. We're so honored to have you as part of the SAS Speaker Series. And, you know, as collaborators, we just are grateful for you every day. And
Feelings mutual.
appreciate you joining.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you, Jordan.
Okay,
Thanks
have
for
a
everything.
beautiful day.
All right.
Alrighty, guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.